Okay. So give me 1 second. All right. Okay. So what I already have is the board governance and the 3 branches under it. So we have the publication side, which is the lovestory.org free journaling resource, plus the Love Story print journals that would be serialized, anthologized on the blockchain. And then we have the educational piece, that the Producer's Playbook, the Love Story Playbook. Producer's Playbook is designed to help you journal your tragedy, and the Love Story Playbook is designed to help you journal your love story. And of course, each act takes you through an action that will reveal a little bit of something. And the whole premise behind the education piece of it is we are all coming in as journal artists who are people that are willing to document their journey and to fictionalize it in a way that makes it safe and distanced from them, but also offers an insight, a piece of history in the life and times of our life here, right? And so the last place I visited was in Edinburgh in Scotland, and there I went to the Writers' Museum where I was introduced to Sir Walter Scott. There's a huge museum, there's a huge monument of Sir Walter Scott, and the reason why the Scottish people love him is because he really was able to capture the times of what it was like in 18th century Scotland. He was able to fictionalize, but yet still reflect reality in there, in that fiction. He called it the historical novel. So he created a genre called the historical novel. And I mean, I got to credit this guy, even though I thought I invented something new, which I didn't, because that's how life goes. You think you've invented something when you realize, no, it's just the zeitgeist, and you're just continuing passing the baton. So, he calls it the historical novel. We're calling it the journal artism, but it's the same thing. It's similar, but different. It's similar, but different. In the context of we're fusing the journaling aspect of it. So it's bird by bird, journal entry by journal entry. And we're not really approaching it like you're writing a novel, but we're starting it with you're writing a journal entry. And as you can continue writing it in fiction, over time, it becomes something, the goal of the Producer's Playbook is really just a book of journal entries told in fiction. What I plan on doing, and please don't quote me on it, even though it's recording right now, but this is just something I'm projecting into the future. So it's like a hypothesis. I have to test it to see the results. But the idea of the Love Story Playbook is so that by the time you get to the producers, the second novel, after you publish the first one, by the time you get to the second one, you are ready to write it in the third person fiction, and you're ready to present it like a novel, or you're ready to present it as a novel. You're continuing to live your life, so you're still documenting things that are present. So if I were to publish the Love Story book, it's not going to be a repeat of what I've already published, right? Because I'm still living my life in real time. And if I'm still documenting it in a series of journal entries, then it's going to be different, you know? And then I might do some flashbacks that may or may not include some of the stuff I've already written. But the idea is I'm going to write a novel, and it will be a historical novel. When I die, it'll be a history, right? But right now it feels like it's a journal entry, but the idea is that you are actually creating a historical novel in the form of a love story, which you're going to be calling it something different. But it's a divine comedy, right? So that, if anything, that's going to help someone out there stay alive long enough to tell their story if they're feeling suicidal. Because, you know, if I were to kill myself, I'm just saying, if I were suicidal, I think one of the things that would keep me going is if someone told me, hey, don't just exit without telling your story. Just wait a few, like, you know, just keep writing, keep journaling, you know, before you kill yourself. Instead of writing a suicide note, why don't you consider doing this program and telling your story bit by bit so that you can publish it? So if you're going to exit this matrix, you might as well leave a piece of what you've experienced behind. And through that experience, we're hoping that there's some kind of silver lining that they can hold on to. I hope that thought process makes sense for y'all. Questions, comments on that? I can't hear you, John. You're muted.
That's exactly right. I don't have questions. I have a few comments, and I don't, I don't know where we want to go next, but some of what you were just talking about, is some of what I'm going to be talking about as I go through what I'm going to go through.
Okay,
so, you're in charge. So you pick. I don't know if you're even done. You might not be done.
I'm almost done.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
No,
All
but
right.
I see that as a good transition from you to me.
Yeah.
But carry on.
No, that's awesome. Thank you. So the last part of the company organization operationally is the production side. And when I say production, I specifically mean the publication of the individual stories that come out of the educational program. So this is, for example, Die of a Crazy Entrepreneur. For Katie, it's Let the Hurt Girl Speak. Tamara is going to be publishing Callie. Sarah is committed to it. Viviani, Rebecca, and Allie. And those are people I've already talked to this week about the publishing process, and they're committed to doing that. So we, in addition to 2 that's already been published, we have 6 more coming down the pipeline. And that's going to be exciting because it would be amazing to see the results of what goes on internally for each journal artist after they've set the book, or the book sets them free. Like if that does anything for them once they've published their pain. And then another thing I'm going to talk to Tamara and Katie about, because Katie just published and Tamara's about to publish, is I want to set up a college ambassador program for those who've already published their particular diaries, so that they can take their books to local colleges in need and speak and tell their own story, and while advocating for the mission of Pain to Purpose, and really just empowering our own people to be the living embodiment of transformation. So that's one part of the production, is just to get them published and get them set up powerfully so they can go and speak and sign books and, just do whatever that fulfills them. Like, what is their silver lining, right? And then in addition to that, when we find a showcase producer in our management team, that person will help focus on helping the published authors and um, the published documentary producers, or Amy, whoever it is that created the other book, the Love Story anthology, to produce showcases in their local community where they can invite people out. People could listen to the excerpts in spoken word. Artists can perform. Audiences will journal live. So that would be that branch. The production is almost like its own PR, marketing, branding, showcasing, in-person, department where we support the people who've gone through the publishing and the educational piece of it. At least that's the brain of where this is at right now. Any questions about operations and the three departments, if you will?
I have a question, not as specifically related to what you just said, but it is part of the operations scheme, I think.
Sure.
I noticed an Ibrahim. Is that the same person that was once with us?
Yeah.
Okay. I figured it might be because, I mean, maybe in that part of the world it's a very common name, but when I see a name like that, I think, oh yeah, I remember him. So that is the same person.
Yeah.
Okay. So is he getting back involved, or?
No.
Okay. Because I thought I saw, and I probably just misread it. I was starting to get the impression that he was perhaps going to pick back up the CFO.
Well, I mean,
because he was that.
Right. He was that.
Right.
We're currently looking for a CFO position.
Right.
He's still in our community.
Okay.
I'm still inviting him to keep journaling because he has a great
Okay.
story that I want him to start writing. I want all of y'all to start writing, to be quite honest. But yeah, we are looking for a CFO currently. And speaking of which, let's just go right into. Okay, I'll wait on that.
No, go.
No. I think you should go next. I'll take a break.
Take a break.
Yeah.
All right. So I'm typically the problem child, which I will continue to be. Not really. Okay. So, Aura, just to kind of catch you up on a couple things. 2 weeks ago, Mingjie and I had a really good conference about about the business plan, and what I said to her was that I thought that there might be use in, for marketing purposes and for other purposes, formulating an abstract. And I mean that in the sense of the academic word abstract, a one-page, something that gives people just enough information to either say, hey, screw this, I'm not interested, or, hey, this is really interesting, I'd like to read more. Now, the business plan as written is about 28 pages. And what I've done for today's purposes the section that starts on page 20, which looks like this. I'm not going to talk about this today. It's good stuff. It's great. But it's different. Its purpose, I think, is different from the rest of the pages. So Mingjie and I made, well, Mingjie, I think you made the changes, right? You updated, as we were talking that day, you updated. And it was really more organizational than anything. At least that's the way I see it. But okay, my biggest question, and I think this question comes from not just reading everything, but my own experience as a person who desperately needs what this program has to offer. The interesting thing is that all three of us seem to be literature people. Is that fair?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. We're weird.
Yeah.
No, we're weird. If you take any snapshot of any 100 people who could benefit from this program, there might be 3 who are anything like us. And I say that as a way to just sort of, okay, I figure if I struggle with this, then a person who isn't a literature person is probably going to struggle with this.
That makes sense.
I completely understand first person, second person, third person. I get it. You know, my love of literature was modernist literature, where people were completely screwing with, you know, who's the narrator and from what perspective are they coming. So it's not that. My question comes from, if we're going to suggest that people write as is outlined, Act 1, Act 2, Act 3, I really feel like, and even because Mingjie, I don't want you to think that I forgot this. When we talked about how this document is for us internally, and we need that. I mean, I get that. But if we're gonna ask people to journal Act 1, Act 2, Act 3, I think we also need to provide some sort of, whether the word is guide, structure, something finite, something for the person who, you know, who's had their world crushed and wants to do something about it, but looks at, you know, at what we have to offer and sort of says, wow, not only do I not understand some of this, but it looks like a lot of work. And look, we all know it's a lot of work. Anything that originates, lives, cultivates, and dies in the heart is going to take a lot of work. So
Well put.
I think that we need to do more to help people, even the people internally, even the people who have already done the journaling. When we say Act 1, acting in faith over fear, and I mean, it's set up quite well. For now we see as in a mirror. Okay. I mean, I think we need to add to that. For now we see only a reflection as in a mirror, but that's a detail. But what guidance are we offering people to know that, okay, I've been journaling in the first person for 15 entries, or I've been journaling in the first person for 15 weeks, or how do they know when to stop?
Good
How,
question.
how do they know when to go from I to you?
Good
How
question.
do they know when to go from I and you to he, she, it? I mean, I understand what you're saying. I get it. And as an alcoholic, I get the overlay,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
because I can look at this, and I can see how my experience with AA step work has helped me accomplish a very similar thing.
Right.
Not the same way,
Right.
but I find myself, I mean, even as a guy who understands first, second, and third person, I have asked myself any number of times, every time I pick this book up, to pick a new prompt, I ask myself the same question. Should I be journaling in the first person? Should I be journaling in the second person? Should I be journaling in the third person? I don't know the answer.
Mm.
Um, so, sometimes that will actually stop me from journaling. Other times, I just say, oh, screw it. Whatever comes out, comes out. And so I, I, I kind of did a little test batter with myself. The only journal entry that I've put up on the website, and it's the only one. Mingjie, I know you've read it. Ara, you may have read it. You may not have read it. I can't remember. It doesn't matter. But I went back and read it a number of times and asked myself, was I journaling in the first person? Was I journaling in the second person? Was I journaling in the third person? And the answer I came up with was all of the above in different places. So I think we need to somehow provide a structure or a guide to help people sort of know that they can switch from first to second or from second to third. And if I'm wrong, then I'm wrong. But I don't see that.
Okay. That's fair.
And I think for those of you who are on the publishing trail, you might be able to look back at all your journaling and sort of get a clearer picture of that. But I feel like we need to, if we're going to have a business plan, whether it's for internal consumption and ideally it's going to be for public consumption.
Yeah.
I think that needs to be clear.
Yeah. I mean,
and the thing is I'd love to just sit down and write it, but I myself don't know.
okay.
Okay.
Yeah. 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 Well, first
Does
of all,
that make sense?
yeah, no, it absolutely does make
Okay.
sense.
Okay.
So the way I designed it initially was that was basically a chart that said, okay, here's the first, here's the second, here's a third. Align it with your first three root chakras. That's when you journal in the first. The fourth chakra, your heart chakra, that's journaling in the you, the second. And then when you're ready, when you feel like you're in your higher three chakras, your throat, your pineal, your crown, journal in the third, right? So I initially did do that. That's what I told you initially. But then nowhere in our current program in the soft launch did I ever mention that.
Well, and it's not about what you did or didn't do.
Right.
I think a better question is to ask, how many people who, you know, who land on the website and decide, hey, you know what, this might be something that I could really use, are even going to know what a chakra is.
Right. So that's why I left it out initially.
Right.
Because I mean, think about it like an AA program. When you're a newcomer, you're not going to walk in and someone's going to say, oh, you need to do all 12 steps. Even
Right.
though we read all 12 steps, it's really intimidating for the newcomer. They're going to be flustered, overwhelmed. They're going to feel like there's no way in heck they're going to be able to even do half of that stuff that's written. It sounds too idealistic, yada, yada, all those reasons that's going to stop them. So what we focus on when a newcomer comes into a 12-step program is we just have them focus on step one.
Right.
And even that is a hard thing to do, to focus on step one. It takes rounds and rounds of being in meetings to finally discover the benefits of step one, which is admit that your life is unmanageable and that there's a help me here, John. What is step one?
Yeah, well, came to believe that we were powerless over alcohol and that our lives have become unmanageable.
There we go. Okay,
Okay.
powerless over. But the first is humility, the surrender. So
Right.
powerless over X, and then admit that our life is currently unmanageable, which is an authentic truth, right? So going
Right.
back to referencing the program of the love story. So for act one, I realized instead of throwing this like first, second, third option for them, for act one, it's just first person. Just focus on writing in the first person. And there are three methods of journaling in the first. And I made up some random technique that, I mean, it's not random. It's definitely not random, but the name is random. But the technique itself has been timeless and vetted, you know, like heartfelt confession. Like, who doesn't know what that means? You know, you write a
Right.
heartfelt confession. And another one, journaling in the first would be like message in a bottle. You know, who doesn't know
Right.
that? You know, it's like
Right.
playing post secret, you know. And then the third one would be like if I were to rip a page out of your novel, what would that look like? So you're writing in the narrative fictional form. So, you know, these are all options for people, but I want to get them to at least get used to first focusing on writing in the first. And why 15 journal entries? That was just something that me and Annalyn came up with when we first started the pilot. Although, in all honesty, I don't know what the right number is for the
Right.
individual.
Well,
It could be 15, it could be 50, you know, maybe they need to. So what I'm thinking of in terms of at least structuring the first and second act of the 3-act producer's playbook is act one, we're just going to focus on shadow work. And shadow work is, you know, anything and everything that is not love. So an energy field that's chaotic,
so
maybe.
everything negative.
Right, everything negative. So
Yeah.
we're just going to do the shadow work. And just like AA, you know how people could just easily go inside meeting rooms and anyone could start a meeting. All they need is coffee and a coffee pot and a resentment. So we're going to lower the barrier to entry for anyone to start their own journaling group, especially now that the world knows how to use Zoom. It makes it so much easier
Right.
for us to invite a newcomer or someone who's been in our program in our Slack channel for a week or two to say, hey, by the way, you can just post your own journaling time, you know, link it to the community. Maybe we could start grow the calendar. Anyone could start their own journaling circle. We're going to create a script the way AA meetings do it. They have a script. they have a secretary, they have someone that's going to be the leader for that day, and we're just going to script it out. So it is like anyone could host a journaling circle. And honestly, the miracle is inside the journaling circle. It really is. You know,
Okay, so in harmony with scripting it out.
yeah.
Because the one thing that I try very hard to do, or not to do, is, anybody can look at things and find something wrong with it, or find something. Yeah, I always feel like if I'm gonna open a can of worms, whether I did or not, but if I'm gonna butt my head against something, then I damn well need to have at least one idea for a possible, maybe plausible, or at least a springboard for a solution. So in that vein, what if, and I know this creates work, but
I'm a Capricorn. Work is like,
yeah, I know. I dated a Capricorn. She's rich.
that's good to know.
She's rich, and she's not married to me. Um, God bless her. No, but what if? Okay, so we have this great book. We have these books that we want, or the online platform where people can journal. What if we provide for each? If I'm using this book and I get my phone out and I get it set up to that, whatever that app is, and I scan. Who is this? This is Antonique.
Yeah.
First one. And there's her quote. Honestly, I don't ever want to feel that again, but most times that never wanting to feel it again is what makes you push it away. Okay, so there's the quote. What if we also provided a journaling cue that focuses the writer in the first person, a journaling cue that focuses the writer in the second person, and a journaling cue that focuses the writer in the third person? Now, granted, it would be work to come up with those cues.
Question.
But, yeah,
What do you mean by cue?
Some people, listen to these things and read these quotes, and they what do I write about? What do I write about? I mean, I think most people can figure out something to write about, but rather than create a scenario where people might be wondering, well, how do I know if I'm really ready to leave Act 1 and go to Act 2, and so forth? If every journaling opportunity, so every entry in this book that we can access, no matter how we access it, online, in the book, whatever, if there are, for lack of a better term, factory generated cues, one in the first, one in the second, one in the third, to just help get the writer focused.
Okay.
It doesn't matter which one they pick.
Right. So another thing I forgot to share in this quarantine crisis silver lining is that I've been journaling consistently with Rebecca and her two friends, Rashad and Atticus, and my friend Meg. So we've been doing this at noontime Pacific Standard Time every day, Monday through Saturday, which, by the way, you two are both invited to.
Oh, no, I get them. I see them.
Okay, so what I discovered through just iterating over and over again with everyone is that there's this certain flow that started happening among the group where we started trusting each other just because we see each other consistently. And so our journal entries are more honest. And all it takes is one or two people to really write something that's like, boom, and as editing that person's journal entry in real time via Google Doc, people are beginning to see, wow, I could relate to this. So the next day, like what I'm seeing in this trend is that our journal entries from the first time we met to now has been getting more raw and authentic, and people are relating to each other even though we've never met each other in person. So that's the miracle of just having this first act. I wouldn't say a particular quote would prompt a first or second. However, I would say a particular time, and that time is relevant to that person's unique situation. I'll give you an example. I'm writing in the third. In our circle right now, I'm writing in the third because I'm ready to write the love story. Rebecca's writing in the second. Tamara sometimes writes in the first, sometimes writes in the second. And here's how we figured it out. From the time you first enter love story, anything that happened from the time you were born till now, when you started the program, that's act 1. Okay? Act 2 is present perfect. So what happened yesterday, what happened the day before, what happened last week, let's not stretch it. A month might be considered act 1 if you were a newcomer onto the program.
But as long as whenever it was, it's impacting today, it's present perfect.
Okay, I'll say it a different way, John. Let's say a quote triggered you to remember something that happened when you were 16.
Okay.
What act does that belong to?
My first inclination is going to be act 1.
Right. Now let's say it's a different quote, and that triggered you to remember something that happened last week.
Well, I think it depends on how I approach it, because even the thing that I remember from being 16, and that actually, you picked a great example.
Okay.
Because I was 16 when John Lennon was shot.
Okay.
Okay, and that really fucked me up.
Okay.
Okay. And the way I found out about it was my dad, who was watching Monday Night Football. I was doing my math homework. I was a junior in high school. My dad called me down, and as I came down the stairs, he says, "That dopehead you like was shot." And so when I think about that and a journal entry, I can think about how I felt and what it did to me. And I definitely acted out. I took a lot of acid in his honor.
Yeah.
But then I could also write a very meaningful entry to my dad.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
You, in the second person, you, right? I could also write a very meaningful entry, which I've actually already done in a completely different world, to the deceased, and in gratitude for what I've learned from him, and from his music, and from his philosophies of different things. So granted, we're weird.
Let me add to that, John.
Okay.
With your example of writing in the U, because now you're in that grace heart space where you could write, let's say, a letter to your dad in the U, because that's the heart chakra essentially, and you're writing a letter that's not filled, let's say in this hypothetical, with bitterness. So that would be appropriate to write it in the U. So let's say you're a newcomer and you come to the journaling workshop and you're hearing other people write in different points of views, and you kind of want to experiment in the second. Well, just like the culture of Al-Anon, AA, all these other support groups, these are all requests, not requirements, you know?
Right.
So we're not going to force someone to journal in the first if they already feel like they're in the heart space of journaling in the second while they're in the Act 1 program. So I think I'm glad you brought this up. I will keep that chart open. It's a simple copy and paste for me because I have it on file. So I will put that out there as a study guide, like an overview of Act 1, Act 2, Act 3, so people could see the big picture. However, if they are enrolled to Act 1, we're suggesting they journal in the first. However, if they do choose to, skip, like not skip, but, if they do choose that, you know what, today I'm at peace. I feel like I have the heart space to write an authentic letter in the second, in the U, that aligns with the heart chakra, which we will explain. I mean, honestly, it's like I just Google how I've put together the chakra is I basically Googled chakras and I looked at their charts, and then I aligned it with the first, second, third, and you would think, Mingjie, that's not scientific. How can you do that?
No, but I also think that
I just
I also think that the average person isn't going to think it through with that much depth.
But you know what? As a teacher, I always teach to the top student.
I did too.
And that's a good thing.
It is.
We want to do that
However,
because we want to challenge those that are not there to really, we need to give them everything. But
maybe, but you know what? Maybe the answer.
This thing is coaches. Like in the end, when we get funding, then we can have coaches. That could be an upsell. Like if someone doesn't get the whole group thing and they'd rather have a one-on-one with someone already experienced in the program, they can hire them to walk them through, if that makes sense.
Right. But maybe the answer, and I'm just thinking about something you said, maybe the answer, the easy answer, is in the idea of, okay, look, we all know it's a journal entry.
Yeah.
But, little white lies are little white lies. Write a letter. Write a letter to yourself. That'll be first person. Write a letter to whoever is the object of your grief.
Mm-hmm.
There's your second person. Write a letter to the world, to the situation, to the circumstance. There's your third person. All I'm really saying is, I'm a little worried that we're not making it easy enough for people who, look, I had a number of problems when I first came into contact with you. My life was a complete disaster. Let's assume that anybody who stumbles onto a love story is going to be in disaster mode. That's what we want.
Agreed.
If they're not literary people, you are, I am, Aura is, we're literary people. Just listening to our icebreakers, we're weird, by virtue of compared to the rest of the world.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Maybe not you, Aura, because you're in graduate school, right? So everybody's weird. In graduate school, everybody's weird.
I'm not, you know what? I'm working on my bachelor's. I'm not even there yet. I would like to one day. I've been in school for like my entire life.
Yeah, but
I want to interject with Aura. She's edited my book, The Producer's Playbook. I trust her editing. I think you need to give yourself more credit, Aura.
Thanks, Mingjie.
My point is, whether you're in your undergraduate degree or not, you're obviously far enough along in it, to think beyond the general requirements and the courses that fit that description. People don't read Thomas Paine as a general requirement.
True.
My point is that I think it's easy for us to forget that the average person who's just had their heart ripped out through their throat if they see too much of first person, second person, third person, chakra this, chakra, they're going to be like, what the fuck is this? I
Right,
mean,
right.
and that's what I'm trying to avoid.
You want to keep it simple.
Yes,
For
very.
the newcomer.
Because, see, okay, you guys all live in the Pacific Northwest, right?
Yeah.
Okay, well, I went to school in the Pacific Northwest. I went to school at Oregon, University of Oregon. And as a guy who taught composition there, the single thing that I learned that helped me, not just as an instructor of composition, but as a person who had a lot of papers to write, was that the writing process is, by virtue of its existence, but should be for writers of every level, it's a process of discovery.
Yeah.
And if done correctly, the process of discovery takes away the need to explain what should and what should not be. Because once people start to write and they start to discover, they all of a sudden begin to enjoy writing.
I see what you're saying. So instead of the overemphasis on first, second, and third, perhaps just, make it more of like act one, focus on your past. And these are ways that we could prompt you to write about your past, whether it's a confession letter, a love letter, a hate letter.
Something like that. Yeah.
And not
I think
tied up with the technicalities of it.
Right. And I'm not expecting that we leave this call today with all the answers or even any of the answers. I'm just saying, give it some thought, because ultimately what's going to get people to either spend 11-11, 22-22, or 33-33, or the whole 66-66 is going to be
77.
Well, I saw that too, and I have a question about that. But ultimately, what's going to get people excited and motivated to do it is if they feel like they can just get right to it.
I see what you're saying.
It's easy. This looks. You know what? I need this, and I can start now. I could start tonight. I could start now.
Okay.
And I think we need to be more conscientious of delivering that reality. Because we'll all read all this and think about it and dissect it and analyze it. The average person who's had their heart ripped out through their throat is going to be like, okay, this is looking really complicated. Is the liquor store open? I mean, I'm just being
No. It
real.
makes sense. It makes sense.
Because people who are suffering heartbreak, be it romantic or grief or loss or whatever, their ability to seek a substance to give them emotional relief is extraordinarily high.
Right.
And if that's the easier solution than what I'm seeing on the love story landing page that I like, I'm just not sure that I know what to do, or wow, this looks complicated. We want them to look at it and be like, yeah, I'm in.
Okay, let's do this. I agree with you, by the way, John. So I want to say, John, is it possible if you could give us a sample of something that would look simple, like a funnel?
I can try.
Yeah, like, can you bring it into reality with us so we can see what you see in the simplicity of it? Because for me, my biggest challenge is to keep it simple. So if you can find a thread where we could bring in a newcomer and speak their language in a way that it does not intimidate them, it doesn't make it overwhelming, it's something they feel like they can do for that that day or that hour or that 10 minutes, I would be very open to hearing your suggestion.
Okay. Keep in mind, anything I send you, it'll be written, is it's just a starting point.
Of course. As everything.
It's not me saying, oh, let's change all of this to this, that, and the other.
I agree with you.
Because you know what, you made me laugh today before we even got on this call. You made me laugh this morning because I'm sitting on the couch and I'm rereading some things and I'm thinking to myself, what's the word I'm looking for here? There's a word that's driving me crazy and I need another cup of coffee. What's the word that I need? And then it hit me. Esoteric. And I love that because I'm a literature person. But again, we're weird. The average person isn't terribly esoteric. And they really don't want to be because they look at it and they're like, oh, this is, I mean, it's just like, what would an engineer think?
Yeah, you know what? Okay. I love that you pose that because my dad's an engineer, and
so is mine.
all my life, even to this day, I have a hard time understanding my dad.
Yeah, but there's lots of engineers in the world.
No,
I know. And they get their hearts broken too.
I know, totally. Which is why there needs to be someone outside the box, like, to be able to simplify it for me. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't speak engineer language, nor do I
want to.
Am I capable of it? It's not, I don't want to. I'm not capable of it.
Oh, you don't want to. And that's fine. I don't either. But when it comes to nuts and bolts, the reason that all of this matters to me is that at the end of the day, what we're really trying to do is figure out how to get people to say, yeah, 11-11 or 22-22 or 33-33 or 77-77 is a good, that's a good number. And I'm going to get something really great for this. So where's my credit card? Let's go. That's, I mean, without that, we never stop doing this.
Right.
And so, I'm not trying to over commercialize or even sell out. I'm thinking, how do we reach, once they hit the landing page, they have to see something that makes them go, oh, hell yeah. Boy, am I glad I clicked here. Where's my wallet? Because if we don't have that, we'll always be doing this.
Right. So Act 1 is about shadow work. And the benefit of shadow work is you could beat your own shadow to the punchline.
Right. But 99 out of 100 people wouldn't understand anything you just said. So
another way of saying it is, it is better for you when it comes to shadows, which is the absence of love. You can't fight it. I mean, you can fight it and you can feed it, but you will always lose. So the way to do, yeah, you're right. It's different language. I was going to say the only way to deal with the shadow is to integrate with it, which is a Carl Jung concept. But again, yeah, you're right.
But see, Mingjie, again, what part of the task, what makes this hard is that if we say the shadow work, we also need to be able to clearly explain to the masses what the hell we mean by using the word shadow.
A shadow is the absence of love.
Yeah, no, I know. You know that, and I know that, and Nora knows that.
So maybe we need to explain that right in the landing page and just
but we need to be careful not to be pedantic and try to, it just needs to be common sense. And I think my overall response is of course, I get this because I've known you for what, 2.5 years, right? And I journal, and so I'm engaged. But we have to remember that our next customer will always be new,
Yeah.
and this will always be foreign to them,
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
and that's what worries me.
you know what I like us to do on the next thing, if possible, is I would like, because okay, so I know what the value proposition of Act One is. It's those journaling circles. It really is. Like
You're probably right.
so I would invite all of us to do more of it. Whether you start your own with the people you know, like offline, or the people that are online in our community. I don't care at this point. I just want you to experiment with the journaling circle. So what I will do is I will put out the script, at least like version 1. I will send it to you and Aura. I'm going to send it to all the journal artists, and I'm going to ask people, hey, please facilitate a 1-hour journaling workshop with whoever it is you know. And I want you to come up with some insights on that, because I've had my insight through what happened these last 2 weeks during COVID, because I've been doing it every noontime. And so I would like to hear your personal direct experience doing the journaling circles and the resonate editing. By the way, we've somehow optimized it in such a way in our journaling workshops, at least, where we start the first 20 minutes among 4 or 5 people to just share our journal entries on Zoom. And we were able to edit we were able to highlight parts that we could directly relate to, and nobody comments. Just like in AA Al-Anon share, nobody comments on it. We only highlight the parts we could personally relate to. So this is one step ahead of an AA share, because in an AA share, the speaker is speaking and people are secretly, silently relating to it, and we don't know they relate to it until it's their turn to share. But with the journaling circle on Google Doc and on Zoom is when people are highlighting it. So how it works is, like, let's say there's 5 people in the Zoom chat, right? And we just clicked into this Google Doc that Aura is currently annotating. But let's pretend that it's not our meeting minutes. It's actually a journal entry. So the 4 of us is clicking on Aura's journal entry in real time on Google Doc, and she's reading out her journal entry, and the rest of us are just highlighting parts that we could relate to. So at the end of her share, she has a heat map of all the places that are highly resonate edited, and that reflects the noble shadow and the noble shadow, which I'll explain in just a minute what the distinction is between a noble shadow.
You don't have to explain it to me. I get it.
Okay, so
I just worry about,
they get validation.
right.
And
Okay.
validation itself is a healing mechanism.
Right.
But I'm not going to really say it as a sell price in front of the landing page, because then I feel like it's selly. Like, oh, by the way, you're going to get so much validation. And the person listening is like, why the F do I need validation? Because it's the ego, right? So it might be something more. So really what I'm putting on the landing page is, it's important to tell your story, even if it's a sad story.
Yep.
So we'll keep it simple and leave it there, But in terms of Act One, it's like, well, you're getting so much healing just from someone highlighting parts that you've written that they could relate to.
Right. I think what we have out there for the money spending public, we just always need to be conscious of keeping it really simple and really clear, and as much brevity as is possible. I mean,
I agree.
because as they begin to write and discover, then if they want to read a little bit more about what we mean by shadow and what we mean by, then they're already hooked. The hook's already in. You know, they're writing. They're feeling better.
Let's look at AA, right? So there's actually the triangle service, right? And we know that. We have the steps, we have the sponsor, we have the meetings. So with Act 1, we have the journaling itself, we have the resume editing, and then the third part is we have the literature. And the literature is aligned specifically to love loss, to heartbreak, right? So in Act 1, maybe the landing page needs a lot of optimization, or maybe a little more optimization, but essentially it's a 3-step process. Journal, resonate, edit with a group or a pen pal, and read the first 4 chapters of the producer's playbook. Now, where does your diary come in? The one that you just held, the hard copy. I haven't yet integrated that. Although in the future, in 2021, I don't know if I'm going to raise the price. I'm thinking about it to $111 for annual membership, just to start expanding so we could bring more people in. But, and also there's some, anyway, also the I've been hearing, this is what Annalyn encouraged me to do, is to make sure we hold our value, you know, like people appreciate when they invest in something bigger, because it's psychologically a reflection of what this value is.
Well, yeah, because it's worth monetarily is also going to translate at some point into their emotional worth.
Right.
So yeah, that's a given. I mean, I agree with you.
So if that's the case, then we can just include the textbooks, you know. So every person who purchased the $111.11 will like Amazon. It's not Amazon, but basically we could set up a supply chain where it's a nice little box, a starter package, if you will, like that includes the love story journal, volume, whatever. They get to choose which one they want as their starter package, plus the producer's playbook. That's going to be the foundational textbook for Act 1, the first 4 chapters, and then of course the program. And then so maybe we could make it just like Dollar Shave Club, you know, where we give them a package as a starter kit for when they opt into Act 1. So it becomes a program. And I think college students could appreciate that. They like the structure. They like
I can give it a try and see if it works.
Yeah.
Okay. No, I'm with you. I mean, Mingjie, I'm with you on all of it.
Yeah, we know. I agree with you. We just have to keep it simple, you know. So yeah, that's
yeah. I probably could have said that really quickly instead of taking 45 minutes, but you know how I am. So
it's good.
I have to pee. I'll be right back.
Good. All good. Aura, any thoughts so far?
No, well, this has just been really interesting, just listening to all this. I think I definitely see what John's saying. I'm like glad that he brought that up, because I really dig like esoteric, right? Like, yeah. And so, but yeah, I mean, I think that that he does have a good point, that like simplifying. Oh yeah, my one thought was, if we were to put something about like something to help the average person understand what shadow work was, like on the page, the first thing that just popped into my head was a meme, like coming up with a meme that explains it, you know, some kind of visual depiction.
Yeah.
I don't mean a meme as in like from a meme generator, but I mean more of like from what the actual sense of the word means. You know, that basically like an idea with something that is visualized,
Ah,
that helps get across an element of a culture or a system, or so basically, yeah, if that makes sense.
it does. So, Aura was just saying that it might be a good idea on the landing page to create a visual animation of sorts that's gonna explain the esoteric in simplified terms, like shadow work. What is shadow work? So yeah, I can definitely put something together, maybe like a 30 to 40-second animated video explainer that will explain shadow work and why it's important to do it.
Yeah, I think that would be really cool. And yeah, I agree. I think that like 30 to 40-second videos are kind of perfect, because people are visual creatures, and I think that when they can, especially when you're like learning something new, I think that video is really helpful,
Yeah.
because it's kind of the easiest way to like pay attention.
Yeah.
And you can even do it, even if your mind is kind of wandering, like if you're watching something, you're still gonna like catch a lot of aspects of it. That's what I notice, like
Yeah.
so yeah, I think that's a good idea. I'll write that
Yeah,
down.
because the current landing page, I feel like it's driven towards, hey, why don't you turn it into a story? Why don't you tell your story?
Uh-huh.
And like John said, that might come off as like too much work. And
Well, not just that, but hey, why don't you tell your story? The crazy thing about this is that, and you spell this out very clearly, we want to write about it because it protects our anonymity, but the last thing we want to do is sit down and talk about it. So when we say, hey, tell your story, that immediately exposes, and exposure is very uncomfortable, especially, and I don't mean to oversimplify this, but especially with something as simple as heartbreak. And there's nothing simple about heartbreak, don't get me wrong. A relationship goes bad, yeah, sure, it happens every day to lots of people, but not everybody processes it the same way. And so for a lot of people, the idea of talking about that, and particularly if you're male, oh, well, I'm going to be weak. I might even cry. I can't do this. We have to figure ways to defeat that before it even happens.
agreed.
Because otherwise, nobody gets better.
Agreed.
And yeah, you're going to cry. You're gonna. If you don't, there's something fucking wrong with you. But we gotta, we gotta get them there.
John, I need your help with that.
I'll do my best.
Okay. We'll talk separately on
Okay.
ways
Okay.
we can simplify,
Okay.
because that is my biggest challenge. So I do need someone to help me with the copy.
My fear is always that in my efforts to simplify, the last thing I want to do is change the message, because I love the message.
What's your faith?
Excuse me?
You mentioned your fear. What's your faith in this?
Getting better.
Specifically for others in the landing page, what's your faith in this?
Encouragement.
For whom?
For every person who hits that landing page and is in pain.
Okay. So
I mean, because I think for the most part, people who make the choice to go to the landing page, they're looking for something, that has to do with what we're offering,
yeah,
right? Whether they realize it or not, whether it's clear and specific or not. I mean, the simple word, the love story, that's going to draw attention to somebody who's got a broken heart for any number of reasons. So it's just that once they click and once they get there, it needs to be, and I'm not saying it isn't, I'm just saying it needs to be clear, simple, positive, encouraging, exciting, if that's possible. That may be a stretch. And just something that, it's like, I don't know, it's so hard to put feelings into words, but I always remember my very first AA meeting when within 20 minutes I was in tears. I was crying, not because I was broken, but because I was like, holy shit, these 60 other people, they're just, I couldn't figure out whether it was I was just like them or they were just like me, but it really didn't matter.
yep, that was my revelation as well. Yeah.
And so that's the kind of, and that's difficult to accomplish without other people in the room.
Exactly.
We're relying on a page, on a visual to do that. I think it can be done.
Oh my gosh, thank you. I think I had just an idea, a little light bulb go off when you said that.
Well, good. Write it down before you forget. So it's hard,
Yeah.
But I think we'll know when we get it right.
Yeah.
And the obvious qualification for that is the number of conversions.
Maybe it's a good idea as part of the curriculum when people join in is to set them up to a meeting ASAP, whether it's like create your own meeting or join a meeting.
So like the hotline.
What I was saying is like here, okay, so step one, or maybe it's even like right when they hit the landing page, it's like, join a journaling circle, create a journaling circle. And if they click on join, it goes straight to a calendar of available journaling circles that they could sign up for. And if they create one, they could download the script and set up the appointment. Right. And that really would be the first step, because it's almost like, well, what's the point of them not just, it has to be a requirement for them to join a circle.
Right.
I don't even see it being an option at this point, because then what's the difference between the program and not the program? Because you're already on the website and you could do that all on your own. So if you're going to join our program, you might as well get connected with people. It's like if we're in a game room and you're not playing games, like you're not playing with the kids, in the sandbox. It's like you're already in the sandbox, you might as well play. So maybe once they land on the landing page, that is the program. Like, hey, now join a journaling circle with us, because the miracle is in the rooms. That's how I was able to get my healing that I needed to get. I was physically in the room of a meeting and I was hearing other people sharing. And then that's when I got the healing. So maybe when people join, the first thing they need to get set up for is a journaling circle, which means that we're just going to need more people to host journaling circles, That because it can't just be on my time, because my time might conflict with someone else's time. So
right.
how do we get our journal artists to start creating their own journaling circles in the community? And I'm going to talk to Tamara and Katie tomorrow about that, maybe, because they're more,
Yeah. Well, I mean, the both of us keep falling back on the rooms, and in the rooms, it's like chairing a meeting, right?
Yeah, that's
I mean,
exactly how it should be modeled for the college students.
I mean, I was told that I want to say it was like day 58 or 60 or something. I don't know. Somebody said, who's chairing the meeting? And, and some old timer looked at me and said, well, let him chair. And my sponsor's like, well, he doesn't have 90 days. And the other guy's like, well, how many days he's got? 58, 50. That's close enough for government work. I mean, it's different for everybody.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
But the point is, if you're actively engaged in the journaling process, and you've done a half a dozen or more journal entries with Resonate editing, more than the person who's brand new.
Yeah.
The newcomer can help the newer comer.
Yeah. So in the pilot program, Annalyn and I had set up a structure where the first 15 journal entries, you're a contributor. The next 25, you're the editor mentor. And that's when you are qualified to start your own circle and you start mentoring people. So you have some leadership experience. And then by the time you hit 40, you're ready to start talking about publishing with us, Right. So I think that we still need to hold that together.
I think so. I agree.
Yeah, because I think when you're in a young adult college mentality, especially, people like to earn their way up. People like to, you know what I mean? They like structure, even though we say we don't. But
they don't realize they like it until they actually get involved in it.
Yeah. Like a Monopoly is Monopoly because there's rules in the game that we all follow when we play. So maybe something we need to put together in the producer's program is, well, how do you get to becoming a producer? Well, journal 40 times, and then we'll talk, keep doing it, keep coming back.
Yeah, because 40 journal entries isn't much.
No, it's not.
I mean, you're talking, if you do it every day, you're talking a month and a week of your life.
Exactly.
And I think most people, I mean, this is rhetorical, most people who have had their hearts ripped out through their throats would gladly do something like that if they knew that they would feel better in a month. Because my experience with heartbreak has been that when it's happening to me, I feel like I'm never going to feel better. Not ever.
Yeah.
Never. Not even, you ask me 10 years from now, I'll be sitting in this chair, twirling that barrel on that gun, wondering, should I, right? But
I'm gonna throw in something. That Russian roulette is, you have a higher chance of dying in Russian roulette than the COVID.
Agreed.
Yeah, because I think the barrel is 100 empty chambers versus the gun, which has what, 9?
Six.
Yeah.
Most guns, 6.
Most guns. So yeah, but just saying. But go ahead.
That's it. Yeah.
All right. Cool. No, I agree. I think we're on point. Aura, what are your observations, comments of what we just talked about, or in additional stuff?
I don't know. I guess I've was just trying to, I mean, I agree. I've been just trying to keep active notes. I think that my one thing that I feel I just kind of want to add, maybe, is that while we're on the topic of simplification, that we should also, I think, my thought was actually, okay, when you initially get to the website, I think that we should make it a little bit more simpler. And there were two things that I was thinking of. One was I went to the website to go find the interviews. I wanted to like find the hyperlink. And I, being someone who's been with the organization for like almost a year and a half or something, or, was having trouble because it wasn't, I forget what it's currently labeled, but the interview tab is not labeled interviews. So I was realizing that anyone who I may have sent to the website to go find the interviews may have also had trouble because I was having trouble. And I found them because I can't remember what it's under. If it's under like the journal, or I think they're under journal instead of, and even though those are interviews that are included in the journal, I think that we should make it a little bit easier for newcomers to the website to be like, what I'm saying, because let me go to it right now. And then my other thought was that I think that okay, let me just go there right now. Okay, so if I go to the website, it says about, and then it says, is it journal or is it entries? Yeah, it's under journal. I think we should maybe change that to interviews, but I don't know what you might think, because then if you go to entries, it says artist inspired journal entries. And so that's almost kind of confusing, we're almost like entries should be labeled journal and journals should be labeled interviews, I think.
Could you screenshot later what you're referencing and show me on this?
Oh. I don't know, it just... Okay, sorry.
Okay.
My computer was acting funky for a second. Okay, so... How do I...
Screen share? At the very bottom of your Zoom avatar, at the very bottom of your Zoom window, in the middle, there's a green button called Share Screen. Do you see it?
Oh yeah, there you go.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, so here, do you see where it says journal?
Uh-huh.
That's actually the video interviews, like the documentary interviews.
Uh-huh.
And then entries, this actual current screen is entries, and it's artist inspired journal entries. So I think we should, I understand why the journal tab says journal, but you see, you click on journal and you get all the interviews. But I feel that we should, and then it says browse artist interviews by passion. I just think that we should label journal interviews so that it's more streamlined and consistent. And so when someone's like, where's that like Moby interview? They're like, oh, it's under the interviews tab, and they don't have to like go looking around.
Okay. So just change the label.
Can I make a suggestion and take that one step maybe even further?
Yeah.
Okay, so what if the only choices a new person had to make right up here were write an entry or read an entry?
Huh.
You got two choices. You know, hey, tough guy, you feel like you're ready to write? Go for it. Not sure? Read an entry.
We can.
And you know, and then if you click on read an entry, you can choose from all those keywords, you know, abandonment, anxiety, grief, the heart, whatever, you know, they all are. And again, it's just listening to Aura and what she just said made me think, well, what if my only two choices were to either read an entry or write an entry?
I mean, the great thing about this kind of work is we could A/B test it, meaning like we can literally take the frame of, let me see how I can do it. I mean, if we want to get technical and scientific, we could leverage our Google account, Google AdWords account, and traffic it to a customized landing page that will just say write and read, and see the conversion rate of like how, you know, how long
Right.
that person's been on that page, which is very, we know the ways of tracking it now thanks to.
Mingjie, how much of a pain in the ass is that to do?
No, it's not. You learning it is a pain in the ass, but after you learned it, it's easy.
I mean,
So
so let me ask you this. If you were to set that up and run it for, I don't know, 60 days, 90 days, 30 days, I don't know, what would that tell you?
So first I would run it, and then we have Monster Insights in our plugin. So the Monster Insights will give me the bounce rate for each person on that page. I mean, not each person, but it'll give me the average bounce rate for that page. So I would compare the bounce rates. So if we have a lower bounce rate with write and read, that means people are engaging with it longer.
Okay.
So that will help us decide which is the optimal way of engaging with our clients. So even with this one that Aura suggested, turning journal to artist interviews, we can create a custom landing page just for the purposes of, you know, for inviting artists to interview with us, you know, because they're going to go on it.
Right.
If I were an artist that Aura pitched to, and I go on the lovestreet.org, I'm like, well, where's the artist interviews, you know? And then whereas like if I'm, you know, putting on my what's it called, CEO hat, and I really just want to address the people we're targeting, the high school college students, I need to frame it in such a way, this website, it needs to align with the journal writer, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we could technically create customized landing pages for each type of person that we want on the landing page. Does that make sense?
So yeah, if I'm hearing you right, what you're kind of saying is different customized landing pages that might even be driven by some of the Google AdWords.
Mm-hmm.
You know, depending on who's searching for what, right? But instead of going to the love story overall landing page, they go to that specific landing page that seems to be what they're looking for. And, you know, my brain keeps coming back to the idea that what we need, what we need to be doing is helping people get to doing.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I
You know what I
agree.
mean? You know
Yes,
what I mean?
yes.
Because the interesting thing about the dynamic of heartbreak is that whoever's feeling it wants to do something about it.
Oh, yeah.
They just don't know what to do about it.
Right, 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 right.
So the easier we make it for people who find us to start doing, if I can be a capitalist pig, the more money we'll make.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's terrible, and I get that.
It's not terrible
But the
because
whole
if
point
people
is
are willing to put in money, that means they want
investing
value.
in their recovery,
Yeah, exactly.
and we're providing the way for them. I mean, the business model is the business model.
Right.
It's just that until we can figure out how to get people quickly doing, we will all be doing this.
Yeah. How can we get people to quickly do? Honestly, it came from a recent breakthrough. Rebecca invited 2 of her friends, and without asking them to purchase anything, without asking them to just go on the website alone, we're just like, oh, here's the Zoom link, here's the password, show up at this time. And boom, they showed up. And then that day, I explained, like, the first 10 minutes, we're gonna look for a quote. The next 15 minutes, we're gonna journal. The next 15 minutes, we're gonna edit each other's work. Boom. That's a whole workshop. They did it. So
Right.
it's no longer confusing for them.
Right.
The website itself, because it's the Zoom meeting and the human to human interaction they got with us, and the lovestory.org is only a byproduct of that. So they just went on the website to get the quotes that they wanted to get for what they're feeling in that moment, and then they journaled. And then I maybe gave them a brief explanation, no more than a minute, saying there's 3 ways we're suggesting you to journal. 1 is called the love letter. 2 is called the message in a bottle. 3 is called the I tore a page off of your novel. Like,
Right.
but you could do it any other way you want. And so one person just did spoken word poetry, and that was his way. And like the next day, the same person did a journaling in the second. He was just experimenting. So it's like, it was very casual. We weren't really technical on the first, second, and third. I wasn't lecturing them. We were doing. And so we need to figure out how to lower that barrier to entry. Because right now, as random people coming from a Google lead will not know that. They will absolutely not know that. They'll look at the website like, what am I supposed to do with this? It's like looking at a chess piece without knowing how to play chess. Maybe. I mean, maybe I'm exaggerating. I thought I was clear on the landing page, step 1, step 2, step 3. I don't know. I have no idea if the universe out there, how many people are actually journaling on the website. I have no way of seeing it. I've just placed it on faith that somehow some people went on the landing page, read the 3 steps, and actually did it.
Right. Well, I mean, one of the other things that I always find myself sort of thinking about is, now, Mingjie, I'm older than you.
Yeah.
And you're older than Ara.
Yeah.
Okay. So between the 3 of us, okay, I'm 56.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And I'm not asking for your ages.
I'm 36.
Okay. My point is, between the 3 of us, if you ask each of us individually to describe our experiences in life reading, we're going to have very different answers.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm the old guy, right? So I look at the way I've seen reading change in my life as the internet has completely fucked up the way people read. Because people point and click. They point and click. That's what they do. And I didn't grow up that way. I grew up with a book.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, point and click is like, it's something I can do when I don't really want to pay attention.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Aura, I think you're probably in your 20s, okay? You've grown up.
I'm 34.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, I don't know. I was just guessing, you know. But my point is, there are a lot of people who fit our clientele who have grown up reading on the internet. Now, my whole point in this is, I do not believe, nobody will ever convince me, that people who read and who have grown up reading on the internet with ebooks and all that other horse shit read the same way those of us who have always read with books read. And we need to take that into account.
But how?
I don't know.
Okay, then.
I don't know.
I don't know what to say.
You know, because but I do think the one answer is to keep it simple.
Okay.
Because everybody's pointing and clicking.
You know what?
Yeah.
I'm glad you mentioned that, because, you know, yeah, we got to look. I need to somehow get the person who clicked on the ad that landed on our page to say, yes, I'm going to sign up for a workshop. I'm going to try it out. That's how Tamara was able to invite another person. She just posted it on her LinkedIn. Somebody clicked on that Zoom link, and there's Tamara. There's a random stranger. They connected. She enrolled. You know what I mean?
Right.
So maybe our next step is to get our journal artists rallied up into creating
Love story sharks.
well, no, I was going to say hold them accountable to their journaling schedule.
Right.
And like, for example, like, you know, maybe because it was the virtual thing, I made an excuse of it, but I think a good leader would hold people accountable to what they said they're going to do, you know? So I would say, if you're a journal artist here, I would invite you to set up a calendar of when you are committed to journaling. And in that session that you've created for yourself, maybe it's twice a week, maybe it's 3 times a week, set it up on the Google Calendar. We'll figure out a way to get it to the public, maybe create a public calendar, so that when they post their day of journaling, they're committed to doing it on a Zoom, and any random stranger who's landed on the web page can sign up for that day. And then that day, you know, me or Tamara or Katie or Aura, you know, someone, whoever it is, will be just sitting there in that Zoom meeting, just like an AA meeting right now. It's like, who's going to show up?
Right.
Who's going to show up to this journaling workshop? Because we'll have it scripted for you. You just need to go through the script, and you're going to get benefit by journaling yourself.
Right.
Because I've been consistently journaling every day right now, because I have a 12 o'clock. Whoever does the work, it works. It works if you work it. It's the same principle, you know? So I've been getting the benefit of the mental health that from, you know, doing my journaling every day. And Rebecca has too. And so we've been getting feedback from the newcomers, and they like it. They like it, you know?
You know, I was gonna tell you, you don't look as tired.
No, I know.
When we talked 2 weeks ago, you looked really tired to me, and I didn't say anything because I was like, okay. But you actually, you look 10 years younger today than you did 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, it's serenity.
So you know, I mean, good for you.
Thank
you know.
you. Thank you. There's something really beautiful about journaling, just something, and especially journaling with random strangers that you find can connect with your writing.
It's like helping the newcomer.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
Originally, when I first started Love Story, when I got the spiritual juice from AA, I was like, oh my God, I should have done this. Like, it would have saved me on so many incidences in my life where I was at a near-death experience. I'm like, how come not more people know about AA? And obviously, I know why. I come from an academic background. There's stigma associated with it. There's, the bottom line, there's stigma associated with it. So if we could present it as a journaling group, as a creative writing group, then we take away the stigma. And especially if a bunch of artists are on the publication and, they're people we admire, people who have accomplished things, and we somehow fuse our own personal journaling experience with artists who have gone through similar things. We're recreating the experience of a AA Al-Anon group without the stigma, and now we're opening up the doors to college students, which is our target market right now, because right now there's a mental health crisis with high school and college youth, and this is where we're at.
Yep.
So yeah, we're extracting the healing that we've gotten through our respective programs and bringing it to people who don't identify as addicts, alcoholics, but do identify as just average people.
Well, let's be honest. Nobody wants to identify as broken.
No, absolutely not. So it's better to be.
And the irony is that everybody is.
Right. So we call ourselves journal artists. We're just journaling. We're right. Creative writers, and even someone who's not a creative writer, who doesn't like to write, once they get into this whole new name, I mean, who's heard of Uber before Uber became Uber? Right. Only the Germans knew what Uber meant, you know? Right. But, we're going to create a new name called journal artists. So that's your identity in this organization. You're a journal artist. You journal and you're an artist. You're becoming an artist.
Right.
If they don't identify as an artist. But secretly, we are all artists.
All right.
Any comments, Aura?
No, I should go soon though, because Peter keeps asking. Peter needs me.
Totally. I understand. Thank you so much for hanging out this long.
Oh yeah. Well, it's been lovely. I've enjoyed this conversation.
Lovely?
Lovely. Yes.
Okay, I'll take it.
I've enjoyed it.
No, it's actually, this has been a really good meeting. I think.
Yeah. Aura, would you like to say the last part for next month?
Yeah, or we could go over it real fast. I mean, the PR plan part is that what?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah, I mean, as far as PR, I think what we need to do is simplify. Like you said, I think the last couple things that we spoke about, the customized specific landing pages, is an excellent idea. And then, yeah, if you want to consider changing just like the initial, just some of the titles on the top of the website, like we were talking about, and then I think that would help with just like image to newcomers. Like, I can't remember which one of you said, was it John that said just to assume that like every single person who visits the website is new, or
Yeah.
continuously, we're just continuously getting new young minds, even if they're not physically young, they're young to our cause. And then yeah, I think that, well, I looked over the GuideStar PDF, and I just copy pasted the metrics that seemed like they could apply to us. There's a lot of them, and we could reword some of them if we wanted to. But if you just keep scrolling down on the Google Doc, you'll see there's like 4 pages. And the headings, I just used the headings that were on the guide. Like I didn't change any of that. So like they call it advocacy policy. So, this was just how it was organized in GuideStar.
I'm looking at it right now. Thank you so
Yeah.
much.
Oh yeah. I mean, there's a lot there. It's almost like you could just measure everything. But it's like, the more I was thinking about it as I was copying, pasting these, I was kind of like, I just feel like, yeah, that it would be good that the more that we kind of tally and keep track of, the better.
Yeah.
Because like even just the smallest things, like you were saying, and like GuideStar discusses, like, it all adds to our clout as an organization.
Yep.
And will also help us seek out funding, because then like, yeah, like I think that if you had a portfolio of all these statistics, or just like, if you had this kind of attached to a grant application, it just gives it more oomph. And
Agreed.
and yeah, I think, let's see what else. Yeah, I just think yeah, that right now we should just kind of focus on simplification. I think that should kind of be I think that's a really good theme to take away from today. I think before, I think as like a foundation for everything, before you get too much into PR, I definitely think, because I know last time we had a meeting, we were talking about kind of like trying to button up the appearance of the website and just like the everything, as we're trying to get all this stuff kind of together so that we can like start presenting to people who might fund us.
Yeah. This brings me to a point. I think I need to not hire, but basically on board a UX designer, because I think, again, this is like my biggest challenge is simplification, and I know John's going to help me with that, but to translate it into a website, I think someone with graphic design experience can really help me with that.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to add that to
That's a good
supplement
idea.
talent. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's see. I'll write that on the notes too. I think that's a great idea. I mean, I'm the same way. I have a really complex mind, and yeah, and like I've noticed just in the last like year and a half of being in Brandman, as opposed to when I was at the community college, I've just noticed like the difference in my own writing style, how I'm more organized now,
Mm-hmm.
just from that many more classes. It's like just from, because I've always had a bit of I have ADD, and
Mm-hmm.
so, or inattentive ADHD, and I think that I don't take medication for it, so I can also like, I almost get kind of OCD, and at the same time, and I can like really hone in on the things that I'm doing, but like while I feel like I'm honing in, it's still like I just lack the patience to fully explain every step of my own processes
Mm-hmm.
in my writing and designing and artwork. And I think that ends up to, kind of that esoteric or complex lack of simplification.
Or this is why you and I were so in flow when we were going over the producer's playbook together.
Yeah.
Because it was making sense for you, right?
Yeah. Yes.
And that brought me so much relief, because I felt like, who's gonna understand this?
Right. But then you have to keep in mind that I was like raised in this, like, my family is all like geniuses, and and we all have ADD, and I grew up with like the great books. Like, my parents had a full library in our house, and so I was reading, like, I read Dante when I was like 10. And so there's perfect.
Right.
Yeah, my parents had like one of the original like 3 book sets, like each all the old fashioned leather bound, like, and so I was reading all this kind of stuff and kind of trying to like and I had a way of like understanding what this weird esoteric stuff meant to some degree, and have gone back as I've gotten older and been like, oh, okay, I didn't quite understand it, but now I do. But I kind of have like this thing, like, I really like reading Nostradamus. Like, like John said, yeah, we're all weirdos. I'm definitely a weirdo. Yeah. And so we should keep that in mind, that like, yeah, like, we need to simplify.
What if our audiences are weirdos, though? That's
well, they could all be weird.
Well, then they'll love us.
Yeah.
Right.
Those are the ones that we don't have to worry about.
Right. Can I just make a quick comment that these past few weeks, while I was doing these journalings with Rebecca and her friends and one of my friends, I'm so happy at the level of complexity and writing, the depth of writing that I've gotten. It's almost like I was in a college course and people were just, and the flow was so amazing, like seeing it. So I don't know. I mean, I'm not going to fix what's not broken, but I definitely agree with John that we can simplify it, and we could definitely A/B test it, which means that instead of trying to fix what we already have, we can add to this a new frame and test it to people that are new. And you're right, it's not that people are dumb, it's that people think differently. There's a left brain and a right brain, and I think most of us here are right brainers, and our engineers and our our Elon Musk Tesla guys, they just think very equationally and simplified, and that's a good thing. I'm not knocking them, like, I love watching those home channels where the inside, it's so freaking clean and modern and simple and elegant, so if we can somehow create that in such a way that's inviting. Nobody wants to go inside a home that's overly cluttered, right? So we want to go inside a home that's clean and simple, visually pleasing. So yeah, I think my next step for next month is to really coordinate with John on the copy, but also find an additional UX designer to help me with the website.
Yeah, I think that's a really good idea. I think that, because there is something about, like, you can always tell with, when I look at like brands on social media, or you know what I mean, like, you can tell when they have like a graphic designer, and there is some, like, I don't understand how graphic designer minds work, but they work. Like,
You're right.
I can't do it, but I know that there are people who are like, that's like, they went to school for it or something. They're just natural.
Yeah.
I don't know.
So let's do that. And I'm already interviewing for, we'll wrap it up. I'm interviewing for a CFO, for a Google Ads marketer, and for a grant writer. And I believe what you've listed, Aura, will be delegated to the grant writer
Okay.
for that, for metrics,
Yeah.
because we need metrics.
Okay.
And then as far as PR branding, it's a little inclusive of everything. It's the design, it's the message, it's the simplification of our message. It's all wrapped up together. And I'll add in a UX designer for help. Cool. Thank you for staying in for 2 hours and 20 minutes. This has been the longest we've met, so I want to thank you for that. Any last thoughts?
No.
All right.
No.
I have one, only
Yeah.
one.
Yes.
And that is that I appreciate, I appreciate the patience and the willingness to just, try and be receptive, because I know so much work has gone into all of this, but it's a simple problem, but it's a really hard topic. And it's necessary. So that's it.
Yeah. And I want to say that I've grown a lot through this project. I find myself emotionally maturing through it. So I want to thank you all for being part of this, and and I hope it does the same for you as it's doing for me over time in your own unique way.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Aura and John. And let's check back in later.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you,
Buddy,
Mingjie,
enjoy.
John.
Yep.
Yeah, you too.
Take care.
Bye.